down, man. Suitcase this, my cell phone and my charger don't walk with a limp. You get it knocked off or missing, you gon' get it. Next time I see your ass, you gon' leave airlifted. You know, man, KFROG TV back in the building. Y'all go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you can see it first. Alright, so today I'm gonna be jumping on the topic that the government just executed 3 federal inmates within a week. Alright? And what makes this such a big thing is they haven't executed, you know, inmates in over 17 years. The last person they executed was Timothy McVeigh. If y'all remember the Oklahoma City bombing, that was the last person that they actually executed from, you know, the death penalty.
The indictment charges that Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols, former Army buddies with a grudge against the government, planned the bombing, selected the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City as their target, bought and stole materials for the bomb, and built it.
McVeigh is specifically charged with having delivered the bomb to the Murrah Building in a truck that he rented under a false name and having detonated the bomb at the Murrah Building.
I intend to recommend to the Department of Justice and the Attorney General of the United States that the death penalty be sought against both McVeigh and Nichols.
Timothy McVeigh, guilty. Guilty of murder, guilty of conspiracy, guilty on all 11 federal charges that he faced in the Oklahoma City bombing trial. His conviction comes a little more than 2 years after a massive bomb shattered the Murrah Federal Building, killing 168 people, including 19 children. It was the worst terrorist act in American history, and Timothy McVeigh could now be sentenced to death.
Here's Timothy McVeigh being transferred in a paddy wagon, surrounded by officers, as they make their way to bring him to his final cell before he will be executed. This cell that he is being brought to is going to be the last pit stop for him before he was put to death. All right, so now y'all remember a little bit, right? He's the guy that, you know, after the explosion or whatever, during the damage and the collision of it all, they found a back bumper, like with part of a serial number, license plate or whatever, burnt from the vehicle that the bomb went off in. And then they, you know, they looked it up where it came from. Then they went to the car dealership where it was rented and had the person who, you know, rented the vehicle to him explain, and they sketched what he looked like. When they sketched what Timothy McVeigh looked like, that shit was posted up everywhere. Someone from a motel called in and was like, oh, that ain't such and such, because he used a fake name when he rented the vehicle. But the person from the motel was like, oh, that ain't such and such, that's Timothy McVeigh. And then that's how they got on Timothy McVeigh's trail, and then they pulled him over when he was driving on the interstate. He had a gun on him, stuff like that, and they took him into custody. That was the last person that they actually, you know, executed. You feel me? His co-defendant got caught, and when his co-defendant got caught or whatever, his co-defendant got a life sentence. But he got the death penalty. You see? So now the government done brought 3. One day, one the other day, then skipped a day and then did another one. So they did 3 so far. The first person that they ended up doing was So Daniel Lewis Lee, you know, him and his co-defendant years ago, they decided to go drive to a family's house, a guy that was known to sell, you know, pistols and stuff. So they drove to that dude's house, and when they drove there, you know, they broke in, you know, they got a hold of the dad, the mom, and the child, which was a little girl. They grabbed them all. They came up on $50,000 in cash because they were seeking guns, ammunition, and money. That's what they wanted. They came up on $50,000 in cash, and then they hit all 3 of them with a stun gun. They hit the dad, the mom, and the little girl with a stun gun, put a bag over their head, wrapped it in duct tape, and then tied rocks to them and threw them off a cliff, off into a bayou in Illinois. You feel me? That's what he was, you know, placed in prison for, and that's what got him on death row and got the death penalty. You feel me? He was a white supremacist, and it's been years since he committed his crime. And then, you know, they put him to death. He was the first one after 17 years.
A federal execution in nearly 2 decades is happening today just west of Indianapolis at the Terre Haute Correctional Facility in Terre Haute. Lauren?
And that's where our Alyssa Donovan is joining us live this morning. Alyssa, this execution is actually a long time coming. Tell us more about it.
That's right, Lauren. And the man who will be put to death today by lethal injection is Daniel Lewis Lee. Lee was convicted back in 1996 in Arkansas after killing 3 people in the same family. Now, members of that family, or victims' family members rather, say that they are frustrated at the timing of this execution. Family members of the victims of 47-year-old Daniel Lewis Lee sued the Justice Department, arguing they could not safely travel to witness the execution due to the coronavirus pandemic. Execution plans were suspended late Friday, but the U.S. Court of Appeals put it back on track. Lee will be put to death at 4 this afternoon.
We've been asking for this all along, but then to do this right now when it is so unsafe feels like a slap in the face to our family.
Lee is one of 4 executions scheduled at the Terre Haute Federal Corrections Complex. 2 other men are set to be put to death this week. Another execution is scheduled for August. And representatives with the Bureau of Prisons say that anyone coming to witness the execution today will have their temperatures checked. They will also have to wear face masks. However, family members of those victims say they were also told they will not be able to social distance while inside the facility.
All right. And then the second person who they decided to execute the next day was Wesley Perky. Okay, I don't know if any of y'all know who that is, but that's who the number 2 person was they executed the very next day. Now, the reason that Wesley was placed in prison is he was known for kidnapping a 16-year-old girl. He raped her, and then he like dismembered her body. He burned her, and then he threw her whole body and corpse inside of a septic pond when he was done with her. And then he was also convicted of another murder in another state, of killing an 80-year-old woman who had polio disease, and she walked with a cane. He killed her with a claw hammer. All right, those are the reasons that he was in there, and he served all his time or whatever, and then now he finally made it to where he could be executed.
A second federal execution in less than a week took place Thursday morning, following the Supreme Court lifting an injunction hours earlier. Wesley Perky was executed via lethal injection at a federal prison in Terre Haute, Indiana, around 8 a.m. Thursday morning. Perky was convicted of a 1998 kidnapping and murder of a 16-year-old girl in Kansas City. Perky's execution was initially scheduled for Wednesday, but was halted by a federal judge over concerns for his mental competency. While he was deemed mentally fit to stand trial for the death penalty in 2003, his lawyers say he no longer had rational understanding due to Alzheimer's disease. This federal execution marks the second of its kind in less than a week. On Tuesday, Daniel Lewis Lee was executed by lethal injection, marking the first federal execution in the U.S. in nearly 2 decades. Similar to Lee, Perky's execution followed a 5-4 vote by the justices. As part of her dissent, Justice Sonia Sotomayor said this execution, quote, casts a shroud of constitutional doubt over the most irrevocable of injuries. Perky reportedly expressed remorse right before being executed, apologizing to the family of the victim and his own daughter.
So like I said, Wesley was number 2. Now, the third one was Dustin Lee Honkin. All right? I don't know if y'all know who that is, but this is him right here. Dustin Honkin, he was known because from in the 90s, he was always like, working his way up in the meth business. He had like a meth empire, So when he got arrested and he was taken in custody and shit like that, he was actually arrested because he actually murdered 2 CIs that were on his case, 2 confidential informants. All right, when he murdered them 2 confidential informants, he didn't just stop with them 2. He murdered one of their girlfriends and her 2 children also, a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old. That's why he was placed in prison and he seeked the death penalty. You feel me? So he was the last one that they actually executed. So it was 4 days, I believe. He was executed for those reasons that I just gave you.
Within the last few hours, a convicted killer from Iowa was executed in Indiana. Dustin Honkin died by lethal injection at the federal prison in Terre Haute, Indiana. In 2005, a federal jury in Sioux City convicted Honkin of killing 2 drug dealers who were set to testify against him.
He went into a prayer. He said, "Hail Mary, full of grace." He went on to say, "Pray for me, I am a sinner," and ended by saying, "Mary, Mother of God, pray for me." At no point did he directly address anyone else. His eyes were mostly to the ceiling, and really he was not saying it in any way that would project as if he were speaking to someone. It very much, I got the impression that he was doing this for himself. This was a poem and a prayer for himself in his final moment.
Now, me personally, I believe in the death penalty. You know, a lot of people don't, a lot of people do. I believe in certain crimes you should receive the death penalty. There's certain things that, you know, you do, and I feel you deserve it. You get what I'm saying? Y'all go ahead and drop in the comment section and let me know if y'all are with it or if y'all are against it. You know, everybody got a different opinion. You know, can't make everybody happy. Some people's opinion may be different than others. But, you know, just drop it in the comment section how you feel. If you feel it's a thumbs up, drop that thumbs up with your comment. If you feel it's a thumbs down, put a thumbs down and drop your comment. All right? Now, what blows my mind is they ain't just stopping at 3.
The 4th execution is scheduled for the same facility on August 28th. Now, only the Attorney General and the President of the United States can grant clemency to anybody who's condemned to die in the federal system. The death penalty issue generating a lot of controversy. There's some protesters out around the prison all week, and a lot of them say that the federal government shouldn't be doing executions because of the COVID-19 pandemic. In fact, one inmate here at the prisons died from COVID-19, and some staff members have come down with it. So, and with unemployment hovering at 11%, they just feel like it's not an appropriate issue that the government should be focusing on.
They actually got one coming up, as you see, next month. Keith Duane Nelson. All right? If y'all don't know anything about him, look him up. He kidnapped a 10-year-old girl that was rollerblading in front of her house, took her into the woods behind her house, you know, sexually assaulted her, did all that stuff, and choked her with a wire around her neck, and they found her body in a church. He did it at a church. You know what I'm saying? He's the one that's up next for, you know, the death penalty. He's scheduled to be executed. So y'all go ahead and drop in the comment section if you feel like he should be executed, if you feel like he shouldn't be executed, or if they should even be doing, you know, executions during the corona, because a lot of family members are against it right now. Like I said, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Me personally, I feel like he should. Like I said, I'm with the death penalty for certain reasons. You feel me? But that's all I have today for y'all. Is this video right here. I figured I'd just, you know, touch bases and let y'all know. It's been 17 years, a little more, actually, since they did an execution. But anyways, you already know, man, it's KFROG TV. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Drop your comments.